Welcome to this week's SecureWorks Cyber Chat. I'm your host, four-time Microsoft MVP Nick Cavalancia, and today I'm joined by Ryan Albin. He's SecureWorks Global Solution Lead for Threat Detection and Response. Ryan, good to be talking with you today.
Great to be here.
For those of you listening today, Microsoft provides a broad set of security products across their various Microsoft 365 licenses, and today's discussion is really around getting the most out of the E5 license. And so, David, I got a couple of questions. I thought we'd do a little bit of back and forth and talk about the idea of getting the most out of that license. What do you think is first off, the driving force around organizations investing in specifically a Microsoft E5 license for their cybersecurity needs?
Yeah, I mean, we see this a lot in our customer organizations. It's consolidation, right? Over the years, organizations have added amazing productivity apps, SaaS solutions, traditional software security tools, but that's resulted in vendor sprawl and different renewal cycles, software renewal cycles. And so, Microsoft has, recognized this and brought a solution to the market where we can have, a single suite of products that are all seamlessly integrated together, and you have this vendor space so businesses can run faster. These are large line item purchases in a budget for an organization. And my observation has been that security teams may be along for the ride. They may not be the ones making these decisions to go with this platform, but there can be some great benefits for those teams under an E5 license.
I would agree. There also seems to be a thinking that's gone along throughout the years of adopting the cloud at various degrees, whether it's a platform as a service or it's infrastructure or whatnot. And that is the idea of just giving the responsibility to the vendor in the cloud and letting them deal with it. One phone call to make, one throat to choke. I mean, whatever term you'd like to use, as the case would be. And that way, there's also not this finger pointing of, well, that's actually your responsibility. I mean, Microsoft's really clear as an example with their service level agreement around the data. So it's obviously very clear there's a huge delineation. They even say your data is your data and you're responsible for it. But then at the same time, if that very same organization is thinking about, well, we're going to do our own cybersecurity, and how do you point the finger at Microsoft if you're not utilizing their services? So it really makes good sense. What's the advice that you give organizations typically when they're trying to maximize the value of the E5 license?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, it's a bundle. There is a lot in this bundle. There are dozens of applications, features. Not everything's going to be relevant to your security team. And those that are relevant, they're going to require careful and intentional and thoughtful configuration to make sure it's optimized for what the organization expects to get out of it. You can't do all this at once. You can't do it overnight. So you need to prioritize which capabilities you want to deploy and configure. And after you've done that, you're going to have some maintenance and some ops to go along with it, particularly if it's a security tool that's generating additional alerts that are firing. You're going to have to start triaging these and looking after them. So just really prioritize, carefully consider which ones are going to give you the most value first, get it configured, and then move on to the next one. You want to make sure you get things stabilized to a point as you add additional features into the stack. So it's really about that priority and giving it your focus, configuring it before you take on the next one.
Yeah, I went and cheated here, and I grabbed a listing of all the features unique for the security features unique to the E5 license. I wanted to say that because I don't want people to think, wow, he knows this by heart. No, he doesn't. And that's okay. They've got, I mean, just a couple of them. All the flavors of Defender. You've got Microsoft 365 Defender, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for Cloud Apps. You've got Microsoft Purview for Insider Risk, for e-discovery. I mean, and there's a bunch of stuff around even Azure AD, information protection and governance. There's a lot of security features. So your advice there about starting with what makes the most sense for an organization and grow from there is really well founded, because the list could kind of go on and on in terms of everything that's involved. And so obviously the idea here is you're going to have to pay for the license to begin with in order to start using the services. So there's no real way to sort of dip your toe in the E5 water, get an E4.5 license, because that doesn't exist. But, so you can't. But in order to get the most value, the honest answer, of course, to kind of fast forward your answer, if you will, is you got to use all of it. That's how you're going to maximize definitely the value. But the reality is you're not going to get there in a day. So that's a really really good advice there. Do you see organizations investing in Sentinel alongside their E5 license?
Yeah, occasionally we do. And Microsoft, they provide you a trial of sorts that you can use the Sentinel solution with the Defender products that come within E5 and bring that in. Um, what what's what I've seen interesting about this, and not unlike other SIM solutions we are familiar with from previous eras in security, when you get into configuring Sentinel, you're going to start to incur some usage-based costs. Sentinel sits on top of Log Analytics and Azure, or now what's called Azure Monitor. So there can be some confusion here because Microsoft is innovating on the names that they're applying to their solutions. Um, so in any event, you can configure Sentinel. We see this. It's easy to kind of get started with it, but then you start to incur some of those usage-based costs, which can be antithetical to wanting to go with E5 in the first place, with having predictable licensing, knowing what services and features you're going to get. So we see it, and like I said, it is a SIM. It's going to require expertise, care and feeding, time and attention, skilled operators to configure and maintain so you can achieve results. In the right hands, extraordinarily powerful for those organizations with sufficient budgets and talent.
And I almost add to that, in addition to the let's call it the solutions, doing the detection, the protection, the prevention, the logging, all those things. Um, for some organization, there's also this need to have the staffing that can then be monitoring, respond to it. I mean, that kind of thing as well. I mean, that makes sense to you as well. If they're really going to get the most of the E5 license, it isn't just turn everything on. It's also have an ability to gain insight from the information that's there and take action because of that insight and better protect the organization. If you're in the circumstance where Microsoft doesn't automatically, prevent an attack or stop a threat or something like that, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, with any security solution, it's that balance of finding the protection and visibility, but it's going to create work, not just work to configure, deploy, and maintain, but to investigate the things that it observes. And so that's, there's a challenge in that, and you got to find that balance that matches the capabilities you can get with your organization's and your security team's ability and depth of bench to consume and action it. It's if you get all the alerts in the world and you don't have the time and people to investigate them to know you're safe or not, you're really just going to be contributing to your own alert fatigue.
I've always, I was told many, many years ago when I first started in IT that a report, and in this case, logs sort of serve as a report because they're alerting you to something. But a report is only as good as the action you take because of it. And that's actually very true. So you
Amen.
can be told you're told that your organization's on fire. It's only really valuable if there's somebody there to do something with that information and respond appropriately. Last question I got, sort of any parting advice for security leaders? Maybe they've realized they have E5 already, or they're planning on moving up to an E5 license, and they're trying to identify how to best use it.
Yeah, I love that question. Uh, really an advice as a leader of security team or contributor to security team, you have these tools, find a quick win. This is a journey. You're going to be configuring these tools and rolling them out throughout your organization. That introduces change to maybe how your business operates. We know not all folks are excited about change, and that can be an uphill battle within an organization. But definitely find that quick win and build on it. And if I, may be so bold as to recommend what we see in our incident response practice, and what we publish annually in our IR reports, multi-factor authentication can be maybe the number one win you can get out of some of the security tooling here. But with Microsoft, there's some specific configurations that we think are exceptionally powerful for helping to prevent identity-based attacks. And that's called number matching. It's a way that when you configure your multi-factor authentication within the Microsoft suite, that makes it more resilient against certain types of attacks. So Definitely find a quick win. And if you're not sure where to check first, I'd recommend look at your MFA settings and look at number matching and make sure you get that well configured and deployed. And I think that's a really quick win to reduce risk in your organization.
I couldn't agree more, and I'll just add to that. If MFA is not enabled, or if it's not enabled for everyone, enable it for everyone. I always use the example of like think of like a I don't know a building in New York City with they've got multi stories in this organization, and in the sub basement is the mailroom clerk who does not have MFA, and all it takes is that person being compromised, and they send emails out to everybody else in the organization that says, "Is this your package? Click this link here," and that kind of, and then suddenly now even that person has become a cohort in an attack. So MFA for everyone. That's something I would just add to that. So great
Absolutely.
insight there. We've obviously been talking with Ryan Albin. He's SecureWorks Global Solution Lead. And thanks for joining us in today's SecureWorks Cyber Chat. We'll catch you all in the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.